Hey everyone, Mega here with an important video as a fan of the Science Adventure series. Now, before we go into that, if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification button, and be sure to follow me on Twitter. Also, if you'd like to discuss video game design, be sure to check out my Discord server where we chat about game design and games in general. The links are in the description. Now, recently, Digibro uploaded a video on why he hates Steins Gate 0. Now, I will admit, some of his points are good, but some of them are so blatantly wrong that I've decided that I have to make a response to it. First off, Digi, play the fucking game. Steins Gate 0 is not a sequel. It's a side story prelude. It's not a continuation of Steins Gate. It leads up to the ending of Steins Gate. It doesn't continue after Steins Gate. It's an alternate timeline. If it were a continuation, it would have taken place after the ending, but it doesn't. To prove my point, let's talk about what he thinks about Steins Gate. He says that Steins Gate was inspired by the otaku fan base and throws in time travel into the mix, but that's simply not true. Steins Gate is not its own story inspired by the otaku fan base. It's part of the Science Adventure series, which is a collection of visual novels that started with Chaos Head. Now, Chaos Head was the worst one in the entire series. It takes place in Shibuya. It's on a different world line from Steins Gate. Also, Steins Gate takes place in Akihabara, which is why it seems like it was catering to the otaku fan base. It's not that the series was catering to it, it's the location that it was set at. The time travel is not being thrown into the mix. It's setting up the world lines for the Science Adventure series, because that's what the Science Adventure series is all about, world lines. It's also how all the games in the Science Adventure series are connected to each other, world lines. World lines and time travel are also connected to each other. Without time travel, how are you going to explain world lines if world lines are wrapped into time travel? Next, in his next point, he feels Steins Gate 0 was only done to capitalize on Steins Gate, which actually might not be 100% wrong. But what Steins Gate 0 does do is it shows us how plain of a character Okabe becomes because of fear. The only reason Okabe becomes like this is because Mayuri tells him he doesn't have to do this anymore, and that's what causes him to stay on this foolish path. So if you want to blame someone, blame Mayuri. His next point says none of the characters are the same. Well, you have to remember, in this world, Okabe threw away Kyoma. You see this in the very first episode. Okabe tells Ferris to not call him Kyoma. What this shows is that his friends miss the Okabe, and that's why they're not the same. Which brings me to the next point I need to address, and that is the characters. Firstly, Mayuri got a new hair design. So according to Digi, because she got a new hair design, she looks like she aged 10 years. Secondly, if she would have aged by 10 years, her hairstyle wouldn't be the only thing that's different. Now, I will agree on his points on Daru. Daru wouldn't wear flip-flops in the winter. The suspenders I actually didn't have a problem with. In fact, I actually felt it was different. And I'm sorry, but if you fucking can't stand the tits, then I have no respect for you at all. This was originally a visual novel, and where do visual novels come from? Japan. And what's the target audience for visual novels? Well, it varies on the demographic. Steins Gate, the visual novel, is rated R, says 17+. What this means is that it's aimed at older audiences, at least 17 to 18 years old at the youngest. In Steins Gate's case, it's primarily aimed at males. You see this in the female characters, which are more attractive than the male characters, and the fact that there are more female characters in Steins Gate than there are males. It's an aesthetic. If you don't like how it looks, blame the anime, but the tits is not a valid point. Another thing he seems to have forgotten is that in the first season, it's hinted that the reading Steiner ability is not an ability only Okabe has. Now, everyone else doesn't have it to the degree that Okabe has it. However, everyone experiences the memories of the other world lines to a certain degree. This is why Mayuri says you don't have to talk like that anymore. Mayushi is better now. What this means is that Mayuri remembered the memories from the other world lines to a certain degree. That's why she said she's all better now. Also, before we go to the next point, there is something I absolutely cannot forgive, and that is how badly he pronounced Okabe. Like, he pronounced it as if there were a double A in his name. If he pronounced Kurisu's name badly also, but that one I'm more okay with. But moving on. His next point is what Steins Gate is about. That's incorrect. because Steins Gate is not its own story. He's not seeing the bigger picture. As I mentioned earlier, Steins Gate is the main story of the Science Adventure series, which all the games are linked via world lines. And how are you going to link up the stories via world lines? Time travel. And that's the reason for the time travel of Steins Gate. Also, his comment on Mayuri defending Okabe from Suzuha's slap shows how little he knows of the visual novel. Because in the very beginning of the visual novel, this is exactly what Mayuri does. She consoles and tells him he doesn't have to do this anymore, and thus we get the Okabe that gave up. Other than that, I pretty much agree with what he said about Okabe's Kyoma side. It would have been better to make it so that Kyoma was always bubbling beneath the surface. Digi makes good points, but a lot of his points are more focused on his personal opinion rather than objectivity and validity. But that's going to do it for this video. If Digi wants to respond to this, I welcome it with open arms. Hell, if we were to ever be in a conversation with each other, we may actually agree on some points, as I mentioned in this video. This has been Mega, and I will see you again next time.